The 622nd edition of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog is giving away $15 million in Best Ball Mania 5. Sign up today with promo code MMA SGPN to claim your first-time deposit offer of up to $250 in bonus cash. That's UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code MMA SGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Rhythm has the best AI picks and projections, and their football models are almost live. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
Howdy ho, degenerinos. Welcome to episode 622 of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, dedicated to Gumby's mustache. Yes. If you're one of our subscribers on YouTube, you will see that Gumby has an amazing mustache right now. If you're not a subscriber, you should have FOMO right now. Fear of missing, actually, that's two M's, fear of missing out on a mustache. So, or FOMOM, maybe that would be. Anyhow, subscribe to our YouTube. Thank you, everyone who has. And cheers to Gumby for carving in a fantastic stash. I am still stashless. I still have a unkempt beard. I would be Jeff Chalks Fox. Thank you for coming to the show. The UFC episode. The UFC is back. The UFC didn't go away, but we had some regional episodes. Now we're back with UFC. Pretty solid fight night card because it's not in the Apex. It's overseas. It's in the UAE, Abu Dhabi is where it's taking place. So we have a pretty solid fight card. 13 fights from top to bottom. Today's all about the prelims. We're going to hit you off with our winners for the 7 prelim fights. Then tomorrow will be the 6 main card fights and our fancy plays. So maybe it seems so long ago then. Last week's event, pretty memorable pay-per-view. Not memorable for the action, maybe more memorable for the stuff that happened outside of the cage. Gumby had a very good week, plus 210, plus 120, plus 280, just on the straight picks. He hit those. Beat me. He hit 10, I hit 8 overall. He destroyed me money-wise. He was up 500. I was down to 246. But on the year, I'm ahead everywhere. I'm ahead for overall locks, dogs, props, consensus. Not consensus. That's us together.
How could you be ahead on consensus?
I would find a way if it was possible. Anyway, I just want to prop my ego up and say, hey, I'm ahead of it all. But Gumby had himself a night, and he hit some ladder plays. It was a good night. Let's bring him in now. Danny Gumby Freeland. Hello.
Yeah, first of all, subscribe to the YouTube, both so that you can see the mustache and so that you make our bosses happy. And again, if you don't like notifications, that's fine. Turn them off. We still appreciate the subscriber. And then secondly, 18-1, I dropped on Modestas Bukauskas by submission. Hasn't had a submission in half a decade, but he did on Saturday night, which was awesome. I want to ask you just before we get talking about the UFC this week, because obviously, we can sit here and talk about how great Bilal is, but it's kind of after the point. And, we could talk about whether or not Curtis Blades knows that he's really good at wrestling or not. That, and again, that's kind of besides the point now. But I got to ask what you make of this Muhammad Mokaev situation, because on one hand, obviously we hate when the UFC decides to get rid of somebody who we think deserves to be in the UFC. On the other hand, we hate when the UFC gets rid of flyweights. This is somebody who fits both of those bills, right? He's one of the best in the world, and he is a flyweight. But it seems like that there's no remorse here whatsoever. There's no even second guessing. It sounds like they're second guessing on the Nate Nannis release, which happened a little while ago. I heard he's been contacted a few times. There's been some outrage on social media, and the UFC has reached back out to him. Nate Nannis might wind up back in the UFC. It seems like there's no way this happens, right?
You're pitching to me like I'm Shockwave, setting me up with questions on your other show. Yeah, it's he's a flyweight, first of all. I said in our Discord, he's not a needle mover, so it's easy to cut guys like that. But then someone reminded me, maybe it was Eric, Does Sports reminded me, young Muslim fighter, and they're always, like this weekend, for instance, they're always holding events in with strong areas with strong Muslim populations. You would think they would want to keep a guy like that. So it's got to be, obviously, it's behind the scenes issues. If you're not at the very tippy top like Conor McGregor or John Jones, like tippy top of money making for the UFC, I don't think they even think twice about getting rid of people, especially if you're causing trouble. If you're Conor McGregor, you can do whatever you want. If you're not Conor McGregor, you got to mind your P's and Q's, because the UFC is ultimately in charge.
Yeah, I also think, to your point, they do like, young, especially because they're going to the Middle East a bunch more, like you said, young, Middle Eastern or Muslim fighters. But like, if you look at the ones they seem to be putting huge pushes behind, you'll notice none of them are like the standard wrestling Islam Makhachev Habib that they used to get, right? Because they know Islam, as good as he is, still isn't a huge needle mover. They're putting all this hype behind Sharabullet, and they're putting all this hype behind Azamat Murzakanov, who's just like a heavyweight who goes in there and throws big heavy hands. And I mean, man, they catapulted Shamil Gaziev into a main event in his second or third UFC fight against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And obviously, like, that one didn't work out, but now they're giving him a seemingly a much easier step down in competition by going to Dante Mays. So like, the guys they're pushing are all, dudes who throw those hands, and like, I think that's the other piece there, is that Mokaev, in addition to being in the lightweight classes where there's not a ton of power, is like maybe one of the less heavy-handed guys even in the lighter weight classes. So yeah, I think it's probably a combination of that and a lot of other contracty off or on a cage factors.
Yep. Maybe a case of a fighter thinking his worth is higher than the UFC thinks it is, and thinks he can get away with things that not many, like I said, a handful of fighters can get away with. Conor and John Jones, perhaps, is maybe the list. Maybe that other guy that's really good, Alex Pereira, but he's not the type that is going to cause any trouble ever. But yeah, exactly. Good points. Boring fighting style. Difficult outside of the cage, then and a flyweight, and they're like they had the greatest flyweight of all time for a decade, and they traded him. They traded him for a guy that was badmouthed Dana White for years and years, and fleshed out. So if they couldn't figure out how to market Demetrius Johnson, then yeah, whatever. So it's just typical UFC stuff. I'm not putting the blame on their side at all, because we don't really know the full story either. So doesn't seem like Mokaev's the easiest guy to deal with, and he's fighting people outside the cage, and then inside the cage he doesn't want to throw any punches, which is always the case with grudge matches, right? Yeah. Cape and Mokaev did not even hit each other for the first half of the first round at the very least.
Yeah, it was bad. Bad.
Yeah, that's the way these things go. So these things happen in MMA sometimes, Gumby, right?
They do. That's
why we try to stay low maintenance, so the bosses have no excuses to send us to PFL, right?
That's right.
Speaking of the bosses, they have a podcast called the Sports Gambling Podcast, and they launched their 32 NFL team preview. It's already hitting. It's out there right now. And as a bonus, each team preview will include a code word. Submit 32 code word phrase, and you could be the lucky winner who gets a $500 NFL Circa future bet. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast and the SGPN app, and of course, YouTube. Ours would be something about sloppy fatty overs. We could have come up with a really good one, right?
That's right. We could.
We would. All right, let's get some good picks now, shall we? I heard some of Gummy's picks on his Top Turtle podcast. We may be synced up this week. We'll have to see. Obviously, I don't know all your picks heading into this, but the ones I've heard, I kind of share the same sentiments. Of course, we were talking about UFC Fight Night, Sandhagen versus Nurmagomedov. It's actually a UFC on ABC event, and it's in Abu Dhabi, like I said. So all the more reason for them to try to put on a stronger fight night card than they normally would. This is going down Saturday as per usual, 12 p.m. Eastern, though. It's a afternoon event for us on the East Coast in North America. ESPN Plus is the broadcast partner. And as for the prelims, and like I said, ABC has got the big show. Etihad Arena, Abu Dhabi, in an octagon, 13 fights. We're starting from the bottom, working our way up as per usual. I think we've already talked about how we enjoyed this fight card. So let's just jump into it. People don't want us to talk too much. They just want winning picks. So let's give them the winning picks. Middleweights, starting off, Sedriques Dumas, a.k.a. Florida Man, versus Denis Tiuliulin, not Florida. Well, there's St. Petersburg in Russia, and there's St. Petersburg in Florida. So he could be a Florida Man, but no. At this point, he is not. Let's jump into Tiuliulin first. 11-9 with 9 knockouts. He's been knocked out 3 times, submitted 4 times. 1-4 in the UFC. Ouch. He's lost 3 straight. and won 1 of his last 5. All of those fights have come via finish, so he's getting finished a lot recently. He's fight down at lightweight and welterweight. 2013 pro MMA debut, twice more active than Dumas, landing strikes in the UFC. But he has been outstruck, though, by all of his 5 UFC opponents combined have outstruck him 1.65 strikes per minute, plus 185. Dumas, the Reaper, a.k.a. Florida Man, 9-2, 4 knockouts, 2 submissions. He's been knocked out once, submitted once. 2-2 in the UFC, 2-1 over his last 3, 2-2 over his last 4. Got TKO'd in his last fight. 1-0 contender series. Used to fight down at welterweight, up at light heavyweight. So we got a light heavyweight versus a former light heavyweight versus a former lightweight. That's 50-pound difference. Inch of height, 2 inches of reach over Tiuliulin, 7 years younger than him. Better striking stats, better grappling stats. And he has been outstruck as well in the UFC by 0.38 strikes per minute. He's at minus 210. And since I am a gracious host, I will let my co-host go first.
So I'm going to go with Sedriques Dumas. I am a little bit hesitant in going with Sedriques Dumas because Tiuliulin does one of the things that Dumas finds to be pretty difficult. If you look at anybody who like swarms really well, Sedriques Dumas kind of shells up, or like he does that thing where when fighters start to get really worried about people, threatening him, he like flails and pushes his arms away, which is like not a good defense at all. So I like worry a little bit about that, but the stat you rattled off about Tiuliulin is actually really good at emphasizing the reason why I have to pick against him. And it's that he's crazy active, right, on the feet, but also gets hit all the time. And I think really you can boil that down to he does that swarming thing early in fights where he gets in people's face, he throws big, and he makes you think that he like belongs in the UFC. And then he's like so incredibly out of gas that he's ready to be finished at any time after that. And then like winds up getting just like absolutely dominated thereafter. And not that I think Sedriques Dumas has this like ungodly chin, right? Like he did just get knocked out. Granted, it was after an eye poke and all kinds of other weirdness. But like, not that I think he's got some like ungodly chin, but I just don't think Tiuliulin is going to be the guy to go hit his chin. And Dumas, for all that we've said about him and all the issues we've had about him, like his cardio hangs up. He's dangerous even in late in fights. I mean, like if you look at that fight when, Cody Brundage, like he's the one who took out the lowest version of the IQ of Cody Brundage by being good late in a fight, right? And so, do I think Sedriques Dumas is worth negative 210? No. If I'm on the money line on Sedriques Dumas, I'm probably sweating out a whole bunch of flurries early, but I think he cruises late here.
Yeah, Tiuliulin, as per Gumby's point, hits his opponents 4.5 times per minute, gets hit over 6 times per minute. So yeah, not a good combo, especially with a guy like Dumas who can crack a little bit. Yeah, the UFC found a person for us to go all in on, not all in, but to both take Sedriques Dumas on. I can't say his name either, so we're going to move on. So yeah, Dumas seems to be the obvious pick here for me. All right, we're going way down to lightweight now. Jai Herbert from England versus Rolando Bedoya from Peru. 3 5-minute rounds. Bedoya is the machine. 14-3, 4 knockouts, 3 submissions. Never been finished in a fight. 0-2 in the UFC. Before that, he'd won 11 straight fights. He's not won a fight since March 2022. Used to fight at welterweight. 2014 pro MMA debut. 9 years younger than Herbert. Better striking stats and 3 times more active lightning strikes. And he has also struck his 2 UFC opponents by 1.87 strikes per minute. So that hasn't been the issue. Plus 126. The Black Country Banger. I wrote down Badger again, Gumby. Call back. Remember what I called him the Black Country Badger? We all had a good laugh.
And I had to point out that that's not at all what his nickname is. Because I've talked to him about his nickname.
And I was going to Google what a Black Country Badger looked like. See, I don't learn. All right, Herbert, 12-5-1, 9 knockouts, 1 submission. He's been knocked out 3 times, submitted once. 2-4-1 in the UFC. 1-1-1 over his last 3. He did lose his last fight. That was back in July of 2023. Cage Warriors champion in a past life. 2 inches height, 3 inches reach over Bedoya. Better grappling stats than Bedoya. He's been outstruck in the UFC by 0.46 strikes per minute, minus 135. They found someone for me to pick Jai Herbert to beat too. Give me Herbert. Much tougher strength schedule than Bedoya has as of late. Bedoya really hasn't shown that he can fight on this level. Herbert has, and he's been fed not quite a murderer's row, but he's been fed some really tough fighters since he stepped into the cage, and he already was fighting tough fighters in Cage Warriors as well. So obviously he's more dangerous. I like his power. He's finished 10 out of 12 of his opponents, and he's a better grappler too. But it's a striking power. That's probably the thing that's going to carry the day for me. So Herbert's the pick.
Yeah, I think this fight takes place mostly on the feet, and as a result, that's why I like Jai Herbert. Like he's coming off that loss. What was it, Mark Diakese, who beat him last? And again, it was just kind of.
It might have been a split decision too, possibly.
Maybe. But the fight before that is probably the fight that gives me the most confidence here. He fought Ludovic Klein, who we're all talking about being like potentially a ranked lightweight pretty soon. That fight went to a draw. And it only went to a draw because Jai Herbert got deducted a point for kicking him in the groin repeatedly. And it all ultimately wound up costing him the fight. But like he was right there striking with Ludovic Klein. And then we got Rolando Bedoya, who dropped round 2 and 3 to Song Kanan on the feet, a guy who hadn't beat anybody in the UFC of note. So like I just see, not that I want to harp on the cardio for 2 fights in a row, but kind of the same thing here is that like Denis Tiuliulin ran out of gas about halfway through the first. It takes Bedoya to the second before he really starts to cut back on his output. And Jai Herbert, I think, is a better striker than Song Kanan. You could probably say he's even a touch better than Chaos Williams. Like the guys that Bedoya has been losing to, I don't even think strike as well as Jai Herbert. Plus, the Chaos Williams fight was up a weight class. He should have better cardio for that one, and he didn't. So, give me Jai Herbert.
It wasn't a split decision. He didn't even fight that man. He fought Faris Zayam the last fight, the Smile Killer. So
Faris Zayam. Somebody we're going to talk about definitely fought Mark Diakese because I just watched a Mark Diakese fight, and I can't remember why I did. So we'll get in on that.
Yeah, I thought it was Bedoya, but no, it wasn't. But yeah, there is someone coming up. It's true. Someone fought him last fight. All right, before we move on, Underdog Fantasy. We haven't gotten in on any dogs yet, but hopefully there's some to come. Who knows with me, though? I was very chalky last week. Underdog Fantasy has just launched Underdog Streaks. Hit your first 2 pick-em entries, and then go streaking. If you can get to an 11-0 run, you can win 1,000 times your money. That's a lot of times. Plus, Best Ball Mania is live with $15 million in prizes. You can now use specials and boosts on all flex entries. Gumby, do you have any plays for us today, tomorrow, any day?
Oh man, no. Let's go with the higher than on Jorge Soler's total bases on Tuesday or on rather Thursday because he's back in Atlanta and we love seeing him back in Atlanta. So change of scenery, extra bases.
Back home for Jorge Soler. Sign up with our code MMASGPN to claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. OnDarkFantasy.com, promo code MMASGPN, and Odds Jam. Odds Jam is your one-stop shop for beating the sports books. Odds Jam uses millions of data points across every U.S. and Canadian sports book to show you the best value plays for your money. Their line shopping tool shows you the best price for any bet you want to make across countless sports books. Not just DraftKings and FanDuel, but even BetOnline, Bovada, Cut, and many more. The arbitrage tool will find opportunities where you can bet both sides of the same prop on different sports books to guarantee a positive ROI. Their new fantasy tool features the highest EV plays relative to the sportsbook odds, allowing you to crush sites like Underdog Fantasy. I do not approve. They even have a tool for finding the best sign-up bonuses. If you're interested in trying out Odds Jam, you can get a 7-day free trial by going to oddsjam.com and using our promo code SGPN. Not only do you get a 7-day free trial there, but you also get 35% off. So check it out, oddsjam.com, promo code SGPN. All right, we'll be fine.
It was Kauê Fernandes had just fought.
There you go. I was just going to say, we're going to find out who it was, and it's Kauê Fernandes.
Not for a bit.
Not for a little bit. We're on to the ladies now. These ladies did not fight Mark Diakese, at least not in the sanctioned bout that we know of. It would be a women's strawweight bout. The Russian Victoria Dudakova versus the American Sam Hughes, with one of the best nicknames, Sampage. Sampage is 8-6, 2 knockouts, 3 submissions, knocked out once, submitted once. 3-5 in the UFC. Lost over her last 3, 3-2 over her last 5. Used to fight up at flyweight and bantamweight. More active than Dudakova, landing strikes in the UFC. However, she has been outstruck by her opponents by 0.48 strikes per minute. So basically, she's getting hit half a strike more per minute than she gives out. For people new to that stat, plus 140. Dudakova 8-0, 2 knockouts, 4 submissions, 2-0 in the UFC, 1-0 contender series. Used to fight at actually, this is strawweight, is it not?
Yeah.
Yes. Used to fight at. Did she fight up? No, I guess she always was a strawweight. She has missed weight at strawweight before, so keep an eye on that. She's outstruck her opponents in the UFC in contender series by 0.69. Nice strikes per minute. 3 inches of reach over Hughes, 7 years younger, better grappling stats, and she's at minus 162, and it's over to Gumby.
I'm going with my first dog of the day. I'm taking Sam Hughes. I I worry about Victoria Dudakova off her back. I think she looks terrible on the mat when the wrestling is brought to her. And Sam Hughes is a grinder. Like, say what you want about her. Was she 8-6 in her pro career?
She's
You know,
better than the record shows.
Oh, so much better than the record show.
Yeah.
Probably the most deceiving record in the UFC. But like when she's been able to outgrind somebody and use her wrestling and put them up against the cage and beat them up that way, she's done really well historically. And then like look at Victoria Dudakova's last fight with Jinyu Fry. She was one takedown in the Jinyu Fry fight in the third round away from losing that fight. Jinyu Fry is an atomweight who is not good at bullying people, right? Like notoriously a kickboxer works better from range. And she got taken down. Dudakova got taken down, I want to say like 2 seconds into that second round and spent, I don't know, it had to have been more than 4 minutes on her back, not able to get up against the advancing attack of Jinyu Fry's top game. And like, if Jinyu Fry is giving you that kind of trouble on the ground, let me tell you what the double leg of Sam Hughes is going to do. It's at least going to take her down twice, and she ain't going to get back up. You know, Jinyu Fry even worked her way in a side control and half guard a couple of times in those situations too. You know, Dudakova was looking for arm bars. Ultimately, that's what got her out. I don't think she scores any of those off her back on Sam Hughes. I think Sam Hughes takes her down. I think she grinds away for at least, 3 or 4 minutes in 2 separate rounds and wins this by, pretty easy decision.
I'm taking Dudakova regardless. Hughes is the type of person who would beat someone like Dudakova, a prospect like this. I just think Dudakova is a better fighter. I am concerned about her having to pull out of her last bout due to health issues. Hopefully that was a weight cutting issue. Hopefully it was not a weight cutting issue, actually, because she's going to have to cut weight again here. I think Hughes had her little run, about a few fights ago, and I think she's topped out. I think talent and youth is going to win out here, but like I said, Hughes, it would not be a great shock, and hence maybe why the line is as close as it is. I think you were off Dudakova her last fight.
Yeah, I was. I had Fry because I remember sweating it out and being like, Fry, hit that one last takedown and it's over because she doesn't get up. Yeah. And like that's also probably a testament to how much weight she's cutting too, because like it just didn't seem like she had the energy to power through some of those positions. And like if that's the case here with Hughes, I think that's a problem.
I think you were off her for the fight that she had to pull out of last minute too. I can't even remember who that was against, but I think you've been off her for a while.
Probably because of the Jinyu Fry fight that made me off of her even further.
Yeah. All right, let's see if we're in on the same person here. It's a lightweight fight. Guram Kutateladze. He is from, I want to say Georgia, right? Yes.
Correct.
Because his nickname tells you. He's from Georgia. He is fighting Jordan Vucenic from England. Perhaps you just heard us talk about Vucenic on a regional episode, 2 weeks ago? Or a week ago even. We're talking about him again because he is in the UFC now. The epidemic, Jordan Vucenic, is 13-2. 2 knockouts, 6 submissions, never been finished in a fight. This is a short notice UFC debut, so people know warning bell should be ringing. 4-0 over his last 4, all won via submission. He just won his last fight on the 20th, I believe. So, does that sound right? Yeah, 20th. So, a couple weeks ago. He'll have 2 weeks between fights. What else can I tell you about him? He was the Cage Warriors 145 champion, so he was a featherweight previously. He's 4 years younger than Kutateladze, plus 180. The Georgian Viking is 12-4, 7 knockouts, 1 submission. He's been knocked out once, submitted once. 1-2 in the UFC. He's lost 2 straight. Before that, he won 9 straight. He lost his last fight via TKO. That was back in July of 2023. He's not won since October 2020. He used to fight at welterweight, 2010 pro MMA debut, Tiuliulin Vucenic, minus 210. Someone has stolen my body, Gumby. It's been a body swapping. I'm taking Vucenic. I'm taking a short notice debuting fighter against the guy who's going to be bigger than him. I just don't have much faith in Kutateladze. He's a hard guy to figure out. He beat someone good, right? Was it?
He didn't really beat Matthews Gamrot. Like he got that decision. He didn't deserve that decision. Gamrot beat him. I said it at the time. I'll say it a million times here. Now, on the same token, you could probably argue Kutateladze beat Damir Ismagulov. But also Damir Ismagulov didn't beat anybody towards the end of his UFC career. He's fighting for hardcore MMA now. So even if you want to give him that one, it's not like he's beating high level guys. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm going Vucenic too. First of all, I'm going to correct you that there's only one V in his name.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
It's not Vucenic. It's Vucenic.
No, it's Vucenic. It's true.
Yeah. I'm going to take Vucenic too. 2 reasons. Number one, I kind of like the line here. What did you say we were getting Vucenic at?
Plus 180.
Yeah, I think that's blown up enough that you can get down with that. I also just think in general, the problem with Kutateladze is his like inability to finish good positions and get like a little risky. Also, kind of like tires him out. Like we saw it in this Mogulov fight, which we just mentioned. We really saw it in the Elvis Brenner fight, right? Like he just couldn't put Brenner away, and then by the end he was exhausted. Brenner pulled like a TKO out of nowhere. I just think in general, like his inability to finish has been costing him fights. He winds up exhausted by the end of it. And Vucenic is a guy who's got great pace. Obviously, up a weight class is a little bit alarming, but like I think that'll only help his pace, right? Like that's only going to help his energy levels. And in addition to that, he's a really good grappler, which is what Kutateladze wants to do. And he kind of hung in both of those fights with Paul Hughes on the feet, which gives me enough promise in his striking that I think he could deal with Kutateladze. So yeah, I'm with you here. I'm going Vucenic as well.
Yeah, he's already beaten UFC type level competition too.
I mean, he beat Morgan Charrier too.
Morgan Charrier,
in the UFC.
Paul Hughes, who I hear is the greatest fighter of all time. So yeah, it's so let's do it. Let's roll the dice here. And definitely no ring rust like Kutateladze will have. He just fought 2 weeks ago. Kutateladze's been gone for a year. So all right. So you might be able to say that Vucenic has some good rhythm, cage rhythm right now, right?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, there you go. We're talking about rhythm. If you're not checking out the AI picks and prompts from Rhythm, you are missing out. They just predicted a bunch of winners for the 3M Open, and their football models are about to drop. You can even customize your own betting models easily using Rhythm's tools. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Circuit Sports is back with Circuit Survivor and Circuit Millions, giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. Imagine the regret you'll feel if you win your Office Survivor pool but didn't enter the Circuit Survivor. Don't have a trip booked for Las Vegas yet before football? Ultimate Contest Weekend is a great time to go out. Hang with Ryan and Sean and enjoy some of the open bar events at the greatest sportsbook in the world, August 22nd through the 24th. Use promo code SGP15 to save 15% off on your hotel room for sign-up weekend. Sign up in person at Circuit Sports between now and September 7th. Use a proxy to play from anywhere. We even have a deal with footballcontestproxy.com to save you $50 from promo code SGP, naturally. That's the code that will get you discounts everywhere in the world. All right, moving on to... So we've differed one fight, that's right. Let's move on to heavyweight banger. Sloppy fatties over, perhaps. Shamil Gaziev. He is fighting Don'Tale Mayes. This is a heavyweight fight, as I said. Don'Tale Mayes, United States. Gaziev, Bahrain. 3 5-minute rounds if they need it, but we always want the overs, so hopefully they need it. Lord Kong Mayes is 11-6 with 1 no contest, 6 knockouts, 1 submission. He's been knocked out 1, submitted twice. 4-4 with 1 no contest in the UFC. Lost win over his last 4. 2-1 in Contender Series. Regional champion. 2 inches height, 3 inches of reach over Gaziev. 2 years younger. Better striking stats, more active line of strikes. And he's been outstruck over his Contender Series and UFC career by 0.27 strikes per minute, plus 200. Gaziev, 12-1, 8 knockouts, 3 submissions. He's been knocked out once, 1-1 in the UFC. Got DKO'd in his last fight. Basically, he was an eye poke. He said he couldn't see, and they stopped the fight. 1-0 in Contender Series. He's been outstruck in the UFC and the Contender Series by 2.1 strikes per minute. Ouch. Minus 225. Who do you got in this big, sloppy, fatty over fight?
I'm going Gaziev. I think, like, if you look back at Don'Tale Mayes' fights, like you said, he's won 2 out of his last 3, right? And if you look at the people he's beaten, like, pretty much it boils down to, like, if somebody doesn't put the pressure on him and doesn't make him work, he can beat you. Like, he beat Andrei Arlovsky. Arlovsky's not a big pressure, let's get in there and bang kind of guy at this stage of his career. He beat Machado, same thing. Like, Machado is just kind of pitter-patter on the outside, maybe try to hit a takedown, keep the pace low. And the thing about Gaziev is Gaziev has gone in there with guys who do want to just have a slow-paced grind fest and is blitzed him out of there, right? Like, he got Martin Boudet right out of there. If you want to go back to his Contender Series fight, he got Greg Velasco out of there. Maybe his problem in that Jairzinho Rosenstrike fight is he tried to get Rosenstrike out of there too fast. And Rosenstrike, as I said when I picked Rosenstrike in that fight, has far better cardio and far better pace management than a lot of heavyweights do. So, like, I think Gaziev has a better matchup in this case because he does come in, he throws those big power blitzing shots. I think he's probably got the wrestling in the back pocket here if he really needs it. He doesn't go to it all that often, but if he needs it here, he'll get Mays down and beat him up pretty easily. So yeah, I think it even at negative 225 here, Gaziev is a steal.
His name ends in EV. He can wrestle. Come on. Yeah, I agree with his pick. Gaziev is obviously pick. Mays not that good, and Gaziev should be able to smack him up on the feet. If not, he can take it to the ground if he needs to. As Gumby said. All right. Another prelim fight. Lightweights. Mohammad Yahya from UAE. So it's a hometown fighter, a home country fighter, versus Kauê. How do you say his name again?
Kauê
Fernandes from Brazil. 3 5-minute rounds. We'll tell you about Yahya, the UAE warrior. 12-4, 7 knockouts, 2 submissions. He's been knocked out once, submitted twice. 0-1 in the UFC. He's gone 5-1 over his last 6, but he did lose his last fight. Was a regional champion, 1-1 Bellator. Used to fight at welterweight. 2014 pro MMA debut. More active landing strikes than Fernandes, -1. He's been outstruck by 1.2 strikes per minute. He's not minus on the board. He's plus 310. Fernandes 8-2, 4 knockouts, 2 submissions. Never been finished in a fight. 0-1 in the UFC. He's won 2 of 3 and 2 of 4. Did lose his last fight. 2013 pro MMA debut. Better striking stats than Yahya. He outstruck his original UFC opponent by 0.66 strikes per minute, -360. Yikes. Big line for a couple of guys who really haven't proven themselves at this level. Give me Fernandes, a much better competition. I just think he's a better fighter than Yahya. I'm not betting -360 on a couple of relative unknown guys. So I'm going to pass on this in real life, but he's my pick to win.
I will talk on tomorrow's episode about how you're going to play Kauê Fernandes because I do actually think there's a lot of value still on him. I mean, look, Fernandes went toe-to-toe with Mark Diakese. Sorry, I messed up before. That was the actual fight with Mark Diakese. Diakese did wind up sort of grinding out some rounds on the ground, whereas Fernandes, though, had some positions where it looked like he was going to take the back of Mark Diakese, which, if we talk about that from a stylistic standpoint, right, Diakese always a better wrestler than we've given him credit for. Fernandes had his moments in that fight. Now, let's spin that on its head and talk about Yahya's last fight, which he also lost. Yahya lost his last fight by being out-wrestled by Trevor Peek. And I'm not here to slander the name of Trevor Peek because,
no,
we love that guy. We love watching him fight. But I don't think any of us out here are going to bat for Trevor Peek due to his wrestling skills. We go to bat for him for his standing hammer fist, for his wild man mentality, for everything else that Trevor Peek does. But I don't think of him as being this awesome wrestler. And I want to say he had 4 takedowns in that fight against Mohammad Yahya. So Yahya's, as good of a striker as he is, because, although you look scared of striking with Trevor Peek too, which I guess most people should be. Yeah, who wouldn't be? But Fernandes kicks the legs really well. I think he's just going to do that to Yahya. And if he doesn't like what he sees, shoot a takedown. And I think he subs him. So, give me Kauê Fernandes here. I think this should be a fairly as easy as the odds suggest, at least.
All right. Kauê Fernandes is the pick then, right?
That's right. Cowboy.
Cowboy. All right. Let's move on to our main event of the prelims. It would be a light heavyweight bout. Oh boy. Alonzo Menifield, United States. Azamat Murzakanov from Russia. OV, an OV name. Keep that in mind. Atomic Alonzo Menifield, 15-4-1, 10 knockouts, 3 submissions. Been knocked out twice. 8-4-1 in the UFC. 2-1 over his last 3. Got knocked out in his last fight. 2-0 in Contender Series. We had a lot of people that took multiple shots on Contender Series to get signed. Surprisingly, big guys too. You think Dana would love those. He's fighting heavyweight. 1-0 Bellator, 2 inches height, 5 inches of reach over Murzakanov. He's outstruck his UFC and Contender Series points by 0.35 strikes per minute, plus 180. The professional Azamat Murzakanov, 13-0, 9 knockouts, 1 submission, 3-0 in the UFC. He's not fought since April 2023. 1-0 Contender Series, 2010 Pro MMA debut. 2 years younger than Menifield. Better strike stats, more active landing strikes, and he's outstruck his UFC and Contender Series opponents by 1.45 strikes per minute, minus 205. Excuse me. Go ahead.
So first of all, Menifield took 2 shots on there because I think he was only 3-0 during his first run on Contender Series, and his opponent went out with an injury that I'm not even sure Menifield's caused, if I'm remembering correctly. I think it was Daniel Jolly. Is it Daniel Jolly from Tough?
Yeah, I know the name.
And then the second one, he knocked the guy out in 10 seconds or something like that. So easier to sign him the second time. I'm going to pick Murzakanov here. I think, based on what I saw from Murzakanov on the feet against Dustin Jacoby and then knowing what he can do on the mat, I got a lot of faith in him here because, Menifield's a guy who's obviously dangerous in all situations, but like Murzakanov is not the easiest dude to hit, which Dustin Jacoby, despite him having kind of ugly results lately, he's always been a guy who's been kind of sharp on the feet, at least, even if he's not winded up with big power outside of the down junk fight, like Dustin Jacoby hits hard and he hits accurately. And Murzakanov, completely avoided everything he threw. Menifield, I think of him as being more of like a big, powerful puncher and less of a sniper. And I think that means he's going to have a really tough time finding the chin of Murzakanov. You can obviously add in the wrestling factor too. I think Murzakanov's probably got a little bit of an advantage there. Again, there's a reason this is negative 205. I think Murzakanov should pretty much take care of Menifield no matter what kind of fight he decides to go with here. So yeah, give me Azamat Murzakanov.
I agree. Murzakanov is the pick. He's a professional. Menifield seems to always disappoint. So, all right, let's recap as my laptop's about to die. Murzakanov. We both have Fernandes. Both have Gaziev. We both have Vucenic 1v. I have Dudakova. He has Hughes. Both have Herbert. Both have Dumas. Right?
That's right.
All right. We'll be back tomorrow. More from us. We got UFC, the main card tomorrow, and the fancy place. Meantime, we're in the Discord, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. We are on Twitter, SGPN MMA. He's Gumby Vreeland. I'm Jeff Fox Writer. I'm Jeff Fox Writer on Instagram as well. Sign up to my Substack, moneymma.substack.com. Enter my free UFC pick'em contest for this weekend. Gumby's got Top Turtle MMA podcast. Tell the people who is on it this week.
We're talking to Lupita Godinez, who we're going to be talking about on tomorrow's show, and Joey Hart, very exciting prospect coming to Contender Series this fall.
So check that out. Obviously, subscribe to our YouTube. Thank you, everyone who has. You can reach us in the comments there or on Discord. And then, of course, the main place, the mothership, sportsgamblingpodcast.com, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. That's what you need to know. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll be the professional Jeff Fox and Sam Page, Gumby Vreeland. We'll talk to you then.